Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Monica. In today's video, this is part 3 of my Living with Epilepsy series, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how my last seizure almost killed me. And I know that that sounds like really dramatic, but it's the truth. If it wasn't for my fiance being in the room with me, I probably would have died. So thankfully he was there, otherwise I wouldn't be here talking to you guys today. Also, just disclaimer about this video, this is just my story. I'm not trying to be a doctor or give any sort of scientific research or anything like that. This is just me talking about my experience with epilepsy. So let's talk about that seizure and what has happened since. So on Thanksgiving in 2017, I've been almost 2 years seizure-free, which is a huge accomplishment. So that seizure was very different. It was not like any other seizure I've ever experienced before, but let's just get into it. So Thanksgiving morning, I wake up, I'm functioning just like usual, and then all of a sudden, if you watch part 2, I talked about how I know that I'm having a seizure. All of a sudden, I start twitching. Now what happens after I start twitching is I know that I start having a seizure. Well, I was laying on my back and my fiance told me that he was talking to me and mid-sentence I just started making noises, and he turned over and he saw that my whole body had tensed up and I was just like this, making noises. So he then noticed that I started to turn purple. And it was because I could not breathe. So after that happened, he realized that I couldn't breathe, obviously. And they always tell you don't stick your fingers in an epileptic's mouth when they're having a seizure or anything of that nature, but my fiance, basically it was that or let me die. So he stuck his fingers down my throat to kind of, I guess, open my airways so that I could breathe. And he immediately put me also on my side so that I wouldn't be on my back choking on myself, basically. And then I don't remember, I don't remember any of this. This is just my fiance telling me what had happened. I woke up about an hour or two later, which is very strange because usually it takes me probably several hours to really wake up and come to and realize what just happened. So I wake up in like an hour or two and my fiance told me you had a seizure. And so, okay, I had a seizure. And he said that it was nothing like what I've ever explained to him that happens when I have a seizure. So, of course, we booked an appointment with my neurologist and I had to go back in for testing. But here's where the seizure was kind of different. I woke up within an hour or two. Already is kind of strange because I never wake up within an hour or two. And I came to much faster. And I was able to get up, do my hair and makeup, and go to Thanksgiving dinner. Of course I was tired. I was very lethargic and everything of that nature, but I was able to do all of those things. Usually when I have a seizure, I am down for the count for at least 24 hours. I'm sleeping the entire time, which is what was so strange. Well, we booked an appointment with my neurologist, and within, the week, we were back in his office. And he said he wanted to run all of the tests and make sure that everything was normal, yada, yada, yada. So we did, and when I went to him, he said everything looks the same as it always has looked. And I told him, I said, but I felt very different in this seizure. And I came to much faster. And it was different. It felt different. Everything felt different about it. And so he had told me that I don't know what to tell you because all of your tests came back and everything came back the same that it always does. So I said, okay, so we're not going to investigate it anymore. No. So that's when I started thinking, okay, so my favorite neurologist of all time just told me that he's not going to investigate it any further, and I felt kind of shitty, to be completely honest, because this is the neurologist that I've been going to since I was diagnosed in 2005, and he knows me, he knows my condition, and he doesn't want to investigate when I tell him that this felt completely different. So all that he did was increase my medication by an extra 25 milligrams twice a day, on top of the other milligram dosage I was already taking. Now here's where it kind of pissed me off a little bit. So I thought that if I'm going to be taking a quarter of the milligram dosage of what I'm already taking, that it wouldn't be the same price as 100 milligram, that it would be a quarter of the price. So I said, okay, well, that's not too bad. I mean, it's still expensive, but I have insurance and it's not that bad. Well, come to find out that it's the same exact price. So I said, okay, so I'm basically paying for 2 medications, and like, what? And so he told me that the only other thing that he could do is he can increase it to 150 milligrams, and because that is one pill, it's not 2, because they don't make a 125 milligram pill, they make 100 and then 150. And I didn't want to take more medication because I was like, you know what, I've been at the lowest, not the lowest dosage, but I've been at a very low dose for so many years. You know what, I'll pay it, whatever. That was when I had insurance. So, fast forward to recently, actually. If you don't know, we moved to Florida from New Jersey back in February of this year, which is 2019, depending on whenever you're watching this video. And I decided that I have to find a neurologist. I have to find a doctor down here, because I'm not going to be flying back to New York just to see my neurologist once a year for him to tell me that everything's the same. So I found a neurologist here in Florida. Well, the neurologist is open to experimenting with other things and even alternative medicine. So, but of course that costs extra money. So I had asked her, because when we moved down here, the job that I had did not offer health insurance. So I had to, out of pocket, find health insurance and everything of that nature, but they wouldn't cover the brand name medication that I was taking. So I would have to pay out of pocket for that. And that would be a lot of money that I do not have to pay for that medication. So I had asked my neurologist here, I said, hey, I know that my records show that I can't take the generic version, but can we try? Can we at least try, because I cannot afford the brand name medication? So she said, I know that your chart says you cannot have generic, but let's try it. Let's just see, maybe your body has changed, because if you're telling me that your last seizure was different, maybe, just maybe, you grew out of that type of epilepsy and maybe you developed something else. So we tried the generic, and we basically put me on the generic very slowly, and it was 25 milligrams extra every week, and then we would take the brand name down 25 milligrams. So we kind of weaned me off of one, weaned me on the other, so that it wasn't just like, boom, generic, and my body would, not like that, because that's what happened the last time. So it worked. And I've been on generic for a few months now, and I've been fine. And so I just have to go see my neurologist and everything next month, and just make sure that all of the testing came back and that everything's fine. But she truly believes that I might have grown out of the epilepsy that I have and developed something different, whether it be another form of epilepsy or whether it be something else neurologically. So if you watch my other videos, I was diagnosed with juvenile myoclonic epilepsy back in 2005 when I was 17 years old. And basically, they told me that you can grow out of this type of epilepsy. Not everyone does, but some people can, especially when your hormones, because it has to do with hormonal changes. So sometimes when your hormones change a little bit, it might kind of even everything out. But I obviously still have seizures in my adult life, but it's almost been 2 years. So basically, at this point in time, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of a guessing game and just kind of hoping that nothing happens and hoping that the generic works, because I can't afford the brand name. The brand name is way too expensive. And for those of you out there who have some kind of condition, you understand that when you have to take a brand name medication, it's usually extremely expensive. And with the way that the world works nowadays, it's very sad that for people who have a condition where they have to take medication every single day, that it costs so much money. And I'm not here to get into any sort of political argument or talk about big pharma, even though I have my own opinions about that. But basically, that is how my last seizure almost killed me, and how I almost died, and how I've kind of overcome it since. It was extremely scary to know that that was the second time in my life that I have turned purple. The first time was when I was much younger and I had my first asthma attack while also having pneumonia, not knowing it, and doctors didn't catch it, and I ended up in the hospital. So I think I've talked about that here on this channel before. But so it's scary knowing that if I'm by myself, that could potentially happen to me, which is why my fiance will always ask me, are you alive? Are you still awake? And he's actually turned around and come back home when I didn't respond, because either A, I slept through my alarm, or B, I just didn't see the text message yet in the day. And it's just like I said in my last video, it's really, really heartbreaking to watch your loved ones have to go through this, because I can't imagine what my family is thinking when I don't respond right away. Like, I could never imagine how that is, thinking, did she die? Did something happen to her? And am I gonna make it to her in time if she's not responding to me? So for me, it's really heartbreaking to see that. I know that, you know, it's one thing to have epilepsy, but I've learned how to live with it. And of course, just like I've said in my other 2 videos, that fear never goes away of, am I going to have a seizure today? But at least you can get to the point of getting used to it in a sense. You never fully get used to it, but you get used to knowing that this can happen. For some people, they have seizures randomly throughout the day, whereas I'm lucky enough to know that my seizures will only happen in the morning, or let's say I take a nap, it can happen after I take a nap. So that's the thing, is there are people out there who have it way worse than I do, and that's what kind of keeps me going every day, is knowing that I don't have it as bad as some other people. My condition is not as life-threatening as other conditions out there. And that's just kind of how I go through life every day, knowing that there are people that are worse off than I am, and I really can't complain because I haven't had it as bad as other people. Even though I went through my fair share, even though, just like I said in my last video, I went to that dark place personally of after I was diagnosed, but I came out of it, and I'm here today talking to whoever's watching this about my story. And I think that it's important that I kind of talk about it, and I didn't want to talk about it for the longest time because it was one of those things where it's my secret. I shouldn't be telling people about this because they're either A, going to worry, or B, it's not going to be, I guess, taken well is the best way to say it. But I was almost ashamed of having it. So now that I'm so open with talking about it, I feel as though I have to kind of spread awareness to the issue, and also to anyone out there watching this who either suffers from seizures or has epilepsy. You know, you're not alone. And that's basically what I'm trying to talk about, is that you aren't alone. When I was first diagnosed, I had no idea that so many people in this world have epilepsy. If you know, we moved here because of a business that we opened, and when we went to a health expo, there were so many people that came up to us that talked about the health issues that they have, and a lot of them had epilepsy. And it's so weird knowing that there are so many people out there that suffer from this as well, and that you're not alone. And I know that it's kind of terrible to kind of talk about it in that way, but it's really nice to know that you're not alone. So, you know, if any of you have any questions, I am still trying to get my mom onto my channel to talk about it from a parent's perspective. But if you have any questions that you want me to answer about epilepsy, or really anything that has happened since I was diagnosed, just leave it in the comments below. Or if you feel more comfortable emailing me, by all means, please do, because I know that some people like to keep their stories private, and I'm always here for anyone. So I guess that's it for this video. It wasn't really structured in any way, but if you have watched up to here, thank you so much for watching. And this is Monica reporting to you live from a highway. Bye!